Now, NASA says global sea levels rose by more than expected last year. The agency blamed an unusual amount of ocean warming combined with water from melting glaciers. 2024 was the hottest year on record. Hannah Hundal is a delegate to the UN climate change conferences, and she spoke to me earlier telling me the significance of the rising levels.
The global sea level rise is higher than expected. It clocked in around 0.59 centimeters per year. It was expected to be around 0.43 centimeters per year. Why does this matter? Well, two reasons. Number one, it's not just that the sea levels are rising. We know that. It's actually that rate of change. The rate of that rise is picking up. And number two, about 2/3 of this rise was deemed to be due to thermal expansion, which is the warming of the ocean water. So as we have a greater concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, that's trapping heat. And our oceans are actually absorbing around 90% of that heat. And of course, that's not without consequences. And I think that's the issue we're dealing with right now.
So when we say we've got the ocean levels are rising, is this a uniform process?
Well, the issue right now is that because around 2/3 of that rise was due to thermal expansion, the ocean actually trapping that excess heat. I mean, we're seeing the effects of this excess heat throughout the world. 2024 was the hottest year on record. It featured the hottest summer on record, which included the hottest day on record. So when we really take a step back and look at the lay of the land here, it's not a pretty picture. And unfortunately, now is the time to be really honing in on policies that help us facilitate that critical energy transition toward the clean energy economy of the future, away from these greenhouse gas emissions that are underlying a lot of these processes.
Where are we with nations agreeing that something has to be done? Because every time we have the climate change COP that is held, people lose more and more hope. I mean, we can't help those glaciers recover, can we? So what can be done?
It's very important to think about, 2/3 of that global sea level rise was due to thermal expansion, 1/3, though, due to the melting of glaciers and ice sheets. So we have so much to think about in terms of how do we actually get a handle on this situation. And you're absolutely right. We need multinational collaboration on this issue. And unfortunately, at this very moment here in the United States, we had President Trump take the U.S. out of the Paris Agreement, just like he did during his first term in office. The U.S. missed the recent meeting of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is the global authority on climate change and whose reports really underpin all global climate policy. And, now the head of the Environmental Protection Agency here just announced that it would be the most consequential day of deregulation in U.S. history, meaning that he's looking to target those key climate regulations that President Biden had put forth.
Hannah,
so unfortunately, very precarious.
Hannah, very quickly, I think many people are familiar with President Trump's approach to climate change. Who is doing it right?
I think interestingly, actually, China is sort of stepping up in terms of clean energy. They're really leading the charge there, which is a very fascinating development to see. So I'm very hopeful that we'll see some continued progress there, and maybe they will step into the fold. I mean, a lot remains to be determined. We know that in 2021, at the UN Climate Change Conference that occurred in Scotland, China and India sort of teamed up together to try to suppress a movement to transition away from coal. So, there's so many pieces here that are in flux, but I'm hopeful that, with some of that leadership in Asia around clean energy, maybe more countries will step up from the fray.